All right, guys, now that we've familiarized ourselves with the various tools in Photopea and how to create layers and work with layers, we're going to start working on our final logo design. In this tutorial, I'm first going to show you how to set up your sheet for your logo design, and then we're going to really focus on the different ways we can use the pen tool to trace and fill in our logo design with color and to outline where necessary. So here is my final logo design. I'm not sure if it's final yet. It's kind of a work in progress still, but it could be considered final. So this is where we're working towards. I'm going to now open my original photo of my logo design drawing. So that's the first thing we're going to want to do to set up. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find that photo that I took. And then I'm going to go to image size. And I'm going to change this, let's make this 8.5. You know what, we could do 9 by 12 and see what happens here. And then I'm always changing this to 300 DPI. Let's see. So it definitely shrunk it down quite a bit. And you just want to make sure it doesn't warp it. Now, do you see how that's way too blurry? So I'm going to go back to open. And I'm going to try this again. So it depends on the size of your file. So because we're not really going to be putting this on anything, we don't have to worry too much about the size. Let's just change it to inches and see where we're at. Okay. And then I'm going to change this to 300. So just leave the inches as they are and change it to 300 DPI. Okay. That didn't lose any quality. It went up in quality. Now here's my background. I'm going to lock it. We're never going to paint or trace or do anything on the background, so it's locked so we can't. And now what you're going to do, now that you have a 300 DPI image, is you're going to create your first layer. I would choose the easiest thing to trace and start there first. For me, that's the crown. The ice cream, or not the ice cream, the frosting top is very curvy, and tracing curves with the pen tool in Photopea is much more challenging. So we're going to start with an easier area. And what I'm going to do is, because I want this shape to be completely symmetrical, is I'm only going to trace 1/2 of it. And then I'm going to duplicate it and flip it over to make it completely symmetrical so that this side and the side are the same shape. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit because it's really good to see. So I'm using that magnifying glass thing, and I'm going to put in here cupcake, or I'm going to call it crown. That's easier. Crown 1. So I always want to know what layer I'm working on, and to do that I name it. Then I'm going to come over here, and I don't want to have an outline. If I wanted to have an outline, let me just show you, and we'll adjust color in a second. So if I wanted to fill it and have an outline, this is what would happen. So I'm coming over here. And oops. So you can see it would do it at the same time. But I really just want to fill it in. So I'm going to come here, and I want it to be a golden color. So I'll come over to my yellow, but I want to, you can see the colors here. I can change it on this little rainbow chart. That's pretty golden, maybe a little deeper. Okay. So now I have my pen tool. I want to make sure I'm on pen and not free pen. Okay. And I'm going to start in the center here because I know this is going to be my end point. Okay, and I want to make sure that this, see how this line wasn't totally straight, so I'm trying to straighten it out there. Now, with the fill here, this can get really confusing because you could see, if I move this around here, you can kind of see how I'm playing with the shape here. And then you can kind of adjust it. I'm hitting Alt, but it's getting a little it's confusing to see this, right? So what I'm going to do instead, and so I'm just going to go back in my history to my, I'm going to turn on, I made a custom shape. I'm going to delete that. So what I want to do instead, because if that's too visually confusing, and I just want to see the path tool, the blue outline, I'm going to come here, and I've got it to no fill, no stroke. And now I can just focus on the line. And I can bend it, so I'm pulling it with my pen tool. I can hit Command or Alt on your Chromebook, and I can drag this smaller, okay, and then hit this one, drag that smaller, and ooh, too far. So this is going to take time. This is going to be the most difficult thing, is getting the curves correctly. So every time you see it light up, I am hitting the Alt button to move it, adjust it. And do I need to be perfectly on that line where I traced? Not really, because look at this is a nicer swoop. So I'm going to hit here, and then I'm going to come up here. And again, I'm going to adjust where that lands, and then, oops, I lost my thing. Okay, so, and this is why this is much more, for those of you that have used Photoshop before, now I'm using my select tool here to move it, but those of you, so I use this to move it, and hitting the Alt button to press on the points. But those of you who have used Photoshop before, you're going to find this much more difficult to kind of navigate compared to how it works in Photoshop, unfortunately. So let me start again. This time I'm going to come from here. And so sometimes as you're working, it's about figuring out which way to go. I always want to go around the curve to curve it. And then pulling it. Okay, that came out nicer. And then we come over here. And I'm going to pull it this way. Okay, so this worked a lot easier. Something about the direction. And I don't mind that that's not going in as far, though I could come over here and I could play with this and get it a little bit more curved by hitting my Alt Command there and then letting go. And then I'm going to hit Alt and click on that one because I'm coming back there. Whew. Okay, and so now I want to just bring these in a little bit because I'm adjusting these and then coming here. And hit Alt here. So now it wants to curve that. And so now that's the thing I need to work out. Why it wants to do that. So I'm hitting here and then moving it around. Now, I'm trying to see, okay, what is the thing that's making that curve? And how do I How do I adjust it? So I'm bringing this straight. I'm gonna try something here. And then I got it going straight. So I had to play around. And this is the thing in Photoshop is you can really trace with greater accuracy with less of this playing around. And I am doing this all with using my Wacom pen. Okay. So it's going to take, this is why you want to give yourself time, especially if you have a lot of curves, okay, in your work, because it's going to take time to kind of figure that out. But I know because I'm going to flip this over here, I can adjust the drawing here and actually think this improved the drawing. And then I want to come line up here. And I'm checking to see if that looks straight. And there we go. And now I'm going to hit, I'm hovering over and I'm going to hit the top button on my pen and it's going to bring up make selection. I'm going to click on that, make sure it looks like this and hit OK. And then what I can do here is I'm going to come down, I'm going to change my color back to gold. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to fill it in. Oops. I need to make sure I'm on the right layer. Let me create a new layer for this. Because you can see these layers all turned into shape layers. And there we go. Now, is that the best color? Let me try adjusting that a little bit. I think I want it a little more orange, gold. And then I will come back to my paint bucket. I'm still on that layer. Just waiting. Okay, we'll stick with that. Now, these layers over here, I can turn these off and delete them because I do not need them. So I'll come and put them in the trash bucket, keeping my mistakes hidden. All right, now I'm still selected here. I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna go to layer. I'm gonna deselect. I'm gonna come over here to duplicate layer and grab my move tool. You see I have now two of the same shapes. I wanna line them up, so I'm gonna go to edit, free transform, and I'm gonna flip it horizontally. And I'm gonna line these up at the point at the top. I can use my arrow keys to nudge it down and really connect. Okay, now if you come off your design, or my design in this case, you can see that that shrank that down because this was so asymmetrical. And that's fine, right? I can still fit my text in there. So what I want to do now is merge these layers down. So I'm going to go to, you see this copy layer, and I hit merge down, and it's going to be one layer now. Okay, and so then I'll put this as crown. So you saw that I really struggled with the pen tool, had to keep working on it, and that's going to happen. It's going to take a while to master that tool, and even after mastering it, it will give you trouble from time to time. Now I want to turn this layer down. I'm turning the opacity down because I remember I have this imagery in between it. Now this imagery is not the best. And so one thing, if something's not well drawn or you know it could be better, you can get that kind of graphic vector stock imagery of like a well-drawn bird or a well-drawn flower or a well-drawn, in this case, star from online. So remember our little vector stars that look like this, right? So I'm going to actually use one of these, excuse me, in this drawing. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and this is all on my desktop. You want to keep your stuff on your desktop and back it up in your Google Drive from time to time. And I'm going to open this. Now I'm going to come over to my magic wand and I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to go edit, copy, edit, paste. And there it is. It's really tiny. because that file was tiny. So I need to make it bigger. So I'm going to go to free transform, and I'm going to drag it, and I want to kind of keep it the same proportion, so be careful that you don't warp it too much. I'm figuring out what size I want it. And then I'm going to center it. And that's looking a little too big, so I'm going to go to edit, free transform again. Okay. And I'm going to put it here. Now, could I leave this here as is? I could, but it's not the right color. And I'm going to turn my opacity back up so I can see it against that. And if I zoom in, it's going to look really pixelated because this is such a small image. So what I'm going to do is above this one, I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to call it star. Okay. Now, all I need to do here is I'm going to, again, I've got these turned off because I want to just be able to see my path with my pen tool. The blue line is called a path. And I'm just going to come along this edge and neatly trace it. And you can see it's making over here, it's making that shape for me. And I'm going to close it here by connecting it. Again, I'm going to hit the top button on my pen, and I'm going to click on Make Selection and hit OK. Okay. And now I can see this here. So I've turned off those layers. I'm going to make my new layer, star again, and this one I'll star fill, because I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going to pick up a lighter color. So thinking about color, what's the best color for your company going to be? Do I want to outline it? If I wanted to, I could come up here and I could go to Edit, Stroke, and maybe come over here. And I want it to be, oops, go hit OK first. So there we go. And I want to decrease the size, maybe just to 10 on the outside, and hit OK. And then select, deselect. And I kind of like the outline. So you can see I'm doing my logo again, and suddenly I like that better. Then I want to add that line. Now I could come here and use this tool, and you can see I'm still in the same color. Okay, I want to reposition, and I want to maybe zoom in. So now I'm going to just zoom in a little because I want to make sure that line goes really straight. Oops. Okay. And come in, get that same color. And it looks like, let's see, it's hard to see. It's so thin. So because that's so thin and I can't see it, I'm gonna try one more thing. Okay, so I'm gonna delete that, and I'm gonna create a new layer. So that wasn't working. So sometimes you think one tool's gonna work for you, but it's not. So I'm gonna put line crown here, and I'm gonna come over with this tool, which is my rectangular marquee. And I'm not gonna worry too much about it being perfectly lined up yet. And then I'm gonna really zoom in so I can see in between those lines. See that? And then I'm gonna come over with my paint bucket. And wait for it to fill, so be patient with the program. It does, especially if your internet's lagging, we're gonna have to be patient. And then I'm gonna select, deselect, or Command D. And that looks pretty nice. I like how thin it is right there. It's really fairly elegant. Now, So I could consider this part done, right? I do still need to do this piece down here, and I'm wondering if I should now put an outline on it. So let's say I wanted to go back and outline this shape. I could, and I would want to do it the same color as the star. So I would come and I would get my picker tool right here, and I would click on that color and see how it changed the color there. That should be the same color. Got it. Okay. Then I'm going to come back down to my crown layer. I'm going to take my wand. I'm going to select it. And then I'm going to go up to Edit Stroke. And I will keep it the same size, same color. Hit OK. And then select, deselect. And I can zoom off. And I don't love it. Tried it. Not for me. So I'll go back here, select, I went back in my history. Okay. I could turn off my background to check how this work is looking without the background disguise to distract. But that's how you would trace and fill a simple shape and add in details using parts of the, using something from online to kind of perfect your drawing. Now, let's say you have a flower, and I just want to demo this because some of you are going to have a lot of repeating shapes in your designs, and it's not necessary to trace them all. So come up here, let's just we're going to fill this in. We're going to pretend this is I'll make a new layer, call it flower demo. Okay. Okay. Let's say you fill in your flower. There's your center. Okay, select, deselect, or Command D. And let's say we come over here. Let's fill this in. I'll show you how to use the fill feature. Let's say you have pink petals. Okay. And do you want an outline? Let's say you don't want an outline. Okay. And let's just make petal number 1. And then I'm going to just adjust it. Let me zoom in for you guys. Okay, so I'm starting to make my petal. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to stretch this out. So I'm hitting Command or Alt on the Google Chromebook, and I just stretch that line using my select tool. Then come back and I'm going to come here. Okay. And let's say this is my petal. I'm going to close it and I'm going to fill it. Okay, so there it is filled. So you can also do that after the fact. So I could have, instead of using when I trace this, I could have hit fill up here at the end as well, just so you know. Now, let's say I want to keep this shape, right? So what I can do now is I can duplicate this layer, and I'm going to have multiple petals. Now, this petal, I'm going to put it under my, I'm going to put it under my flower here so it's a little bit hidden. Hi. And then I'm going to come over to my duplicated one that says copy, and I'm going to put it under here too, so you have to rearrange your layers as you need to. And I'm going to go to free transform. And then I can rotate it. I can make it bigger, skinnier. So if you need a little variance, a little variety, and then I can put it under like that. And then I can go to layer, duplicate again. Okay, and I'm using my move tool, move it. I'm going to come here, edit, free transform. I can make this one skinnier, and then I could also go to edit, transform, and I can flip it vertically. And then I can move it like this so that I'm getting different shapes and sizes, but I'm not having to trace everything. And there's a consistency and a cleanliness to them. So let's come back here. And then let me zoom out. I'm obviously not going to do the whole flower, but these are things to know as you're tracing and filling, that you can duplicate your layers and use the transform tools to create some variety, but reusing that shape after shape after shape. Okay, so obviously I'm going to turn these off because that's not part of my design. I'm going to end this tutorial here. My next step would probably to create another layer for this bottom part and to line it up and then move on to the top. The text is lax. So I'm going to do a special demo on the pen tool just with curving it next, and I will also do a type tool demo for you as well. Make sure you're watching all my demos and rewatching them as you need to help problem solve, and also reach out to me for extra help when you need it.